There are also multiple kinds of disabilities, especially where gaming is concerned. There are long term disabilities, there are situational disabilities, there are temporary disabilities. It counts as a disability where a video game like Elden Ring is concerned if you have a kid. You have a 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can't pause. That is a situational disability that you have, where the game not having the option for you to be able to pause, for example, is a hindrance for your particular disability.
Hey, what are you doing out here? Don't you want to dance?
Sure.
Oh, Canada, how I despise ye.
Who's your daddy, Montreal?
Life sucks. Somebody paid $200 on stream to have me officially turn into yet another object of pure hatred. You all know exactly how I feel about Canada, and that didn't stop you from having art of me commissioned as a filthy Canadian.
Crepes and horses, and I certainly enjoy curling. You know, Canada may not be for everyone, but hell, I'm willing to give it a try.
Canada's over here, Shay.
At the very least, I deserve subscribers, okay? We're on the verge of 73,000 subscribers and climbing. Like, the channel's growth has been absolutely nuts. So if we reach 73,000 subscribers in this video, or hell, even more, shoot for the stars, then we'll have some very special art of the Prime Minister of Canada commissioned.
Happy Canada Day.
Shh, don't tell no one. As many of you know, here at Fratanga Plays, I am very patriotic. I was very much looking forward to showing off my 4th of July pride, but instead the chat trolled me, and I'm stuck with the Canadian flag during the most patriotic month of the year. And last month, you guys had me with the pride flag. You know what? You guys are the worst. I deserve better viewers. Just like Miyazaki deserves better gamers. Recently, Miyazaki came out with statements defending the difficulty of Elden Ring, and word for word basically saying exactly what we've all been thinking. And it's reasons like this I find myself quickly forgiving Miyazaki for being a foot guy. The man is very much obsessed with putting toes in his game. It was a little disturbing at first, but I don't really mind it so much when he says based ass things like this.
If we really wanted the whole world to play the game, we could just crank the difficulty down more and more. But that wasn't the right approach, Miyazaki of Elden Ring said. Had we taken that approach, I don't think the game would have done what it did. Because the sense of achievement that players gain from overcoming these hurdles is such a fundamental part of the experience, turning down difficulty would strip the game of that joy, which, in my eyes, would break the game itself.
He just like me. He just like me, for real.
And well, as a gamer who enjoys these types of games, I'm inclined to agree with him wholeheartedly. We have different types of games for different reasons. Well, I mean, in reality, we have normie games for normies. And then we have things like From Software games. You're picking up these games with the goal in mind being of getting that From Software experience. To compromise that for a select few who are tourists that most likely don't even plan on playing the rest of the From Software games would make absolutely no sense. Hell, you could argue this difficulty is the reason people pick it up in the first place, which I guarantee you is the reason people pick it up. That, and on top of the lore, the world building, and the aesthetics that Miyazaki's team provides, of course. You never want to reach a point where you're caving into every single one person's demand, because you'll end up making something for no one. People want that sweet center of the jawbreaker without having to work for it, which doesn't go in line with Miyazaki's design philosophy. And it irks me that people still, to this day, cannot respect this man's wishes and his vision. Always constantly demanding it have difficulty options. Always demanding it be a little less hard so that it can fit their lifestyle. I kid you not. Every time you pinpoint to someone having a problem with From Software's design, it boils down to, I'm a grown-ass adult with the family. I don't got time to play these games. Well, there you go. You don't have time to play them. That doesn't mean the games have to change. And yet, knowing this, people will still make the same tired argument every single time Miyazaki puts out a new masterpiece. Like this chick.
The day has finally come. The people have finally spoken. So listen up, Miyazaki. Elden Ring's DLC is too hard.
I'm sorry, but I've seen people who have stubs for hands with disabilities that make it physically impossible to beat Elden Ring. Hell, we saw a chick beat Elden Ring with brainwaves. It's pretty hard to make any excuses. I mean, for God's sake, DSP's out here beating bosses. When the man who was literally a guinea pig for Sony to design God of War is capable, I think the accessibility argument holds no weight.
There are a bunch of negative reviews on Steam for Elden Ring because Shadow of the Erd Tree is considered too hard. I never thought we would get to a landscape where people will admit that they found a FromSoft game too hard. Like, even if people do, I never thought that they would admit it. Now, it's worth noting that the presence of this has been a little bit exaggerated. A lot of the negative reviews on Steam are also people complaining about the performance problem.
A little bit exaggerated? Yeah, no, if you take away all of the negative reviews about performance, you would have a tiny percentage of people complaining about the difficulty. That's how greatly exaggerated it is. However, I will say those players have a completely fair criticism. The performance for this game hasn't been the best since launch, and the DLC is no better. And I do believe From Software deserves criticism for that. The fact I have to turn the ray tracing off and run the game in borderless window mode to finally get the real performance I'm supposed to be getting shouldn't be what I have to do. From Software, do better. As for the difficulty and Steam players complaining, like I said, they're lumped in with people who are complaining about performance, so it is indeed greatly exaggerated.
Course correcting. Patch dropped for the DLC, meaning that this to me would indicate that FromSoft kind of agrees with the criticisms, which is pretty nuts. Basically, attack and damage negation curve scaling of the Shadow Realm blessings have been revised. The attack and damage negation has been increased for the first half of the maximum amount of blessing enhancements, and the second half will now be more gradual. The attack and damage negation granted by the final level of blessing enhancements has been slightly increased. So again, I take this to mean that they like kind of agree, and they were like, oh, we maybe did make this too hard.
Well, you've never seen From Software patch their games before? Are you new to this? Is this the first time you've ever seen them release an update that balances the game more? No, this is not From Software agreeing. This is just what developers do with basically every game that exists. Hell, sometimes these updates are not always in the player's favor. You really took a game patch as confirmation of these developers agreeing with you? What? None of those updates there are going to make a significant enough difference to make the entire DLC way easier. Those slight little tweaks that they're making are not going to make your life significantly easier in the game by any means. I don't see a single note there saying that they're gonna patch out some of the movesets of any of these bosses or negate the damage they do. None of these updates are addressing any of the complaints. How did you come to this conclusion? Updates like this are just routine for From Software. As a matter of fact, the only response we have gotten from anyone at From Software when it comes to addressing the difficulty was Miyazaki telling people to use the mimic tier and summons. This patch does not make the game significantly easier.
I'm not telling you to get good. I'm telling you to use all of the features available to you to cater your experience, which is the coolest thing about accessibility in general. It is time to talk about the incredibly cool Virtual Pro.
Jesus fucking Christ, if you're going to do a product placement in the middle of your video, at least buy me dinner first.
So this is the second half of this video, where I'm going to talk specifically about accessibility, and even just a lot of people really not understanding the conversation about accessibility in Elden Ring.
No, everybody understands the arguments. They've been on repeat for like a decade. They haven't changed, they haven't evolved. You guys ask for the same bullshit all the time. And the answer is always no, so I don't know why they keep asking. And the most annoying part is they try to conflate difficulty with customization as if, oh, well, you know, being able to swap out the difficulty, that's the highest form of freedom and customization. Having more of these accessibility options would objectively make it a better game. I would know this is the same argument Jim Sterling used.
It has been brought up various times across various mediums by various people that Elden Ring is not Well, FromSoft games in general are not particularly accessible to disabled players. And people who are asking for accessibility are not actually asking for an easy mode. That isn't the intent. Here's the thing I want to spell out where accessibility is concerned. People who are disabled, I felt myself doing it, I'm going to do it, is another tangent. There are also multiple kinds of disabilities, especially where gaming is concerned.
And then there are disabilities like this one.
Why did I respond to Jason Schreier's tweet? Why did I do it? Why do I do these things to myself? That's all my replies have been.
There are long-term disabilities. There are situational disabilities. There are temporary disabilities. It counts as a disability where a video game like Elden Ring is concerned if you have a kid. You have a 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can't pause. That is a situational disability that you have, where the game not having the option for you to be able to pause, for example, is a hindrance for your particular disability, a situational disability.
Total freedom.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Whoa! Hold on! Wait, what? Alana! Just hold on! What in the world? No! Stop! It really is as bad as people told me. She really went for it. Oh my god, being a parent is now a disability. See, I thought we were going to talk about, people who can't see, people who can't hear, people who have no hands. I thought we were talking about actual disabilities. So God help me, I hope the man who decides to put a ring on Alana never hears that. I swear to God, I really hope Alana doesn't park in handicap zones because she thinks having children gives her a right to do so. So basically that would mean that men, in her worldview, must be the cripplers, because every single time they pump a nut into a chick, they've basically disabled someone, apparently. Oh my god. Obviously, men are always to blame. I mean, if we're using her logic here, does that mean having to take a shit is a disability? Because when I'm playing Elden Ring and I need to take a fat dookie, or I need to rub and tug it, would my anus be considered a disability? Will I be able to park in handicapped spots now because every time I want to play Elden Ring, I can't pause because I have to take a dookie? Unfair. What a disability. It sucks being born this way. This is a mess of a video. Like, it went from, okay, this is kind of reasonable, to a complete disaster. Like, the jokes and the memes she's opened herself up to here. Like, if you're going to reach that far to make an argument about having a pause button, they should have probably not published this video. Like, if you want to say having a child can make playing Elden Ring a little harder, I guess you could go ahead and say that. But if you're going to say it's a disability or a type of disability, no, you're just objectively wrong. Being a mom is not a disability. Like, there are words you can use loosely. That's not one word you can use so loosely. I mean, if I really had to stop what I was doing in Elden Ring, all I would do is exit to main menu, go get whatever bullshit I gotta get done, and come back and return to game, and I'll be right where I was. I'm not gonna change the entire definition of disability over having to do that. Man, I'm just like, wanting a pause button isn't even really that controversial. But of all the ways you could have asked for one, this is the approach you took?
You may need to pause to stop your kid from putting a fork into a socket, a power outlet.
No, I don't think we need a pause button in Elden Ring. I think what you need are wall socket covers. I mean, anybody who has children at this point needs to have those. And like, what the fuck? Like, if your kid is sticking a fork through a wall socket, no parent's gonna be like, oh, let me hit pause. You're gonna drop the controller and run to the child. Like, we're talking about life problems here that a pause button can't fix. Very strange.
And there are temporary disabilities. You break your wrist, you sprain your wrist, you temporarily have trouble playing video games. You would need something to help you press certain buttons if you're playing Elden Ring.
Well, strange, Alana. I mean, you promote Xbox a lot. You should know by now the Xbox adaptive controller is a thing. I mean, it exists for people who want to play video games with life-altering injuries or disabilities. Like, what? Miyazaki's not going to design a From Software controller just for this reason. I mean, there are options that exist for those people. I don't think this one is on From Software.
The third one, long-term, people who have long-term disabilities. I do. I have tendonitis in both of my wrists from playing too many video games, unironically. That is a thing, from tapping too much. That means any rapid button mashing in any game, I'm gonna have a lot of trouble with unless there are accessibility options to prevent.
So, let me get this straight. Instead of just taking a break from video games and allowing your hands to be in a better place, you think From Software should change their game settings to adapt to you? I don't understand what these folks want when it comes to accessibility. It's like they expect From Software to think about each and every single one of them and their needs. There is only so much Miyazaki can do. It's like when Jim Sterling said it's not fair the game should have more accessibility options because Jim can't remember and has trouble keeping track of quests because they have ADHD. These are not valid criticisms of the accessibility options of Elden Ring. These are at times demands that simply cannot be met.
I have a lot of trouble with fighting games. I have a lot of trouble with any game that's really button mashy. If there are too many button prompts, I'm gonna be in pain and have to like ice my wrist afterwards and not really be able to play it.
At the very least, I mean, this is a far more reasonable and less desperate attempt at requesting accessibility options. I think it's valid. I mean, if you're playing so many games that you've basically crippled your hands, though, I think you have a bigger issue than the difficulty of Elden Ring. But I would by no means call it a disability either. I mean, I have a friend who had his entire arm crushed by a forklift, and he has permanent damage in that arm even after they somehow managed to repair his crushed arm. And he's still playing the game with all of these issues, not once demanding anything be changed to make life easier. It just rubs me the wrong way when people who live with far less severe health issues want to be categorized in the same group of people who do have actual disabilities and are still somehow playing the game.
And here's the thing about accessibility in Elden Ring, where any of those things are concerned. I think there's a misunderstanding that people think, disabled gamers, whoever else, want an easy mode. This is not the case. It's that the appeal of Elden Ring being really fucking hard is also appealing to people with disabilities. They too want to play the extremely hard game that is very hard for them to beat. They're not asking you to give them an easy mode and make it easy for them to get through. They're asking for a version of the game that can be played with their particular disabilities, so they can still enjoy really hard games as well.
Yeah, but here's the thing, having children is not the same as being one of those people. I know maybe I shouldn't get so hung up on how poorly you worded that, but it still keeps bugging me so much. You know what? I regret entertaining that thought. I can't believe I gave you a chance. We're done. Like, any other point you have to make is just tarnished, no pun intended, by how atrocious of a reach you went for. The whole video is ruined. There's like no proper defense for it. It's an edited, pre-recorded video. You could have come back and changed your points, reworded it so it didn't sound completely stupid. I just can't believe the levels people are willing to reach just to prove they're right about the From Software game. It's a tale as old as, well, From Software themselves. Anyways, be careful out there, kids. Don't impregnate someone and create more handicapped people. Be careful. Wrap it up. Because otherwise, you're gonna have way too many parents complaining about how hard Elden Ring is. Although, it does sound quite amusing in my head. What the hell? Don't be surprised if we see that. So like, comment, share, and subscribe if you so choose to. I'll be seeing you in the next one.
Free Congo sucks ass.